Good afternoon. Welcome to the September 15th meeting of the Watershed Committee. This is our first meeting back from February, so welcome back to all our members. If anybody's watching at home due to COVID, we were out of the offices for the springtime, and then typically the Watershed Committee is off for the summer. So this is our first meeting back after our spring outing and then our summer break. So calling the meeting to order, the first item of business is the approval of minutes from February 3rd. I don't know if anybody had any issues, comments, concerns remembered back to February.
No,
All good?
all good.
Okay. Simon, you're good?
Yep, I'm all good.
Okay, thank you. So just kind of jumping right into our discussion, kind of give you guys an update on the stream cleanings we've done this year, some of the mowing which is going to be upcoming, some of our other projects that are ongoing. So I have up on the screen in the auditorium, let me see if I can share that with the rest of the group, if that pops up. Just one moment. Oh, that's coming up. So what we're looking at here is a project we've shared with the committee before, was showing a necessary cleaning from Atlantic Avenue going north behind the Newberry Park neighborhood. So this was a piece that we had cleaned to the south in the past, a portion of Hip Brook, and then going north, we had cleaned earlier June-ish, I think shortly after we came back, maybe May, June, we came back and cleaned. So we did the stream cleaning through here, had all our necessary permits, cleaned past the first pond, cleaned to the north, opened up the drainage that coming out of the northern pond that was plugged, and then cleaned this access all the way back up into the DPW property. So we had access from our DPW facility back through this, cleaned past those two ponds, hopefully open those up, and unfortunately I haven't been back to check and see if the ponds have been flushing better, but we're hopeful that those are flowing a little bit better than before. We had been looking at this southern pond a couple of times. We've done our tours out there, looked at that. We met with the homeowner, I think at 10, out there when we were there at the time. Had the conversation with him that basically the discharge comes in further up from him, so he's kind of in a dead pocket at the end. He was hopeful it would flush out a little bit better. We offered if we had some excess material, we could kind of fill in the end of the pond. He opted not to and just said, well, we'll see how it goes, but was happy that we cleaned that. We mowed around the backside. I think some of the neighbors were happy that they could get in and walk around the pond. But I think it was a betterment, or hopefully a betterment for those two ponds to drain out. We also did a little bit of cleaning on 2960, working with that property owner that worked well, accessing through their property and then obviously through the DPW property to get that stream cleaned out. So if you go by, you can kind of do a quick look up that way, but it greened up quite quickly. I don't know what you guys used for grass seed on that one, but the normal ryegrass, whatever, but that seemed to good organics coming out of the stream bottom or whatever we had, but that seemed to green up real fast, and it turned out nice, and it was a little swampy when we were in there, but
we took it all the way to the property line on the north.
Okay.
We didn't go over in the nature or in the 1,000 acre swamp.
Went up here, and then I think you guys.
There's where we stopped.
Okay, and you guys created a little path coming back into.
Yeah, coming right up the end of the berm. We cleaned the path, going right straight back.
Yep, through there.
Right there.
Okay.
We have access to it. We don't have to go to anybody's property.
Okay. So that was one of the ones that was on our priority list this year. We got done in the June timeframe. We've kind of stayed all in the same general area this year. So then from there we jumped over and worked on the drainage downstream from the YMCA. So this was a piece that we'd cleaned around Country Club East Pond a couple years ago. cleaned that, and then we cleaned this kind of jagged channel through the YMCA's property. And then we stopped about here. So then this year we continued draining or continued cleaning, worked with the YMCA, got the necessary permits from the Y, worked with some of the property owners off Mallory Lane, and then cleaned this stream all the way up in, cleaned the finger off of this behind 7, cleaned up through, and then came all the way out to Atlantic Avenue. So as part of this, then we cleaned the back stretch of this through here. Had quite a bit of Phragmites in there. Given our permit and everything else, Phragmites is considered an invasive species, so we had to take it to the landfill. They had to take it to the landfill and then dispose of it properly. So it was quite a bit of extra cost, but making sure we followed our permit and stayed, to the letter of the law of what we had to do. We trucked that out. So if you drove by, we had a pile in one of the backyards for quite a time to kind of let that dry out. So we're not paying for water. We're not paying for the wetness and the vegetation. So they did a nice job of cleaning that out and then, stockpiled that, let that dry out a bit. But this section through this northern end had quite a bit of the Phragmites in it. The rest of the section we, cleaned out what was in there. That one wasn't blocked too much. There was some trees down in different areas. That'll hopefully help the golf course. We've had a couple of calls from them in recent years saying it's not draining as well, and they've had some drainage issues on the east end of that the golf course. And then obviously we had cleaned the southern end a few years ago. Now had cleaned the middle portion, and then 2 years ago, I think it's been now, we had cleaned the portion north of our property, worked with the gun club, cleaned the portion to the north all the way up to Penfield Center Road, and then cleaned Penfield Center Road. So this drainage corridor is in pretty good shape right now. As recent as yesterday, we had conversations. We have an annual meeting with the state DOT. So we had a conversation with them yesterday and shared that their culvert under the road seems to be holding water. So whether it's full of Phragmites or vegetation or something, but did share with the DOT that, it's holding more water on the south end than it is on the north end. With the dry weather we've had lately, the north end is, pretty much down and dry. The south end is still holding water. So they said they were going to go out and take a look at it. Hopefully they can get that flushed and then open that back up. But that was, I say, as recent as yesterday, we had our meeting with the DOT and shared that with them. So hopefully they'll get that flushed out and open that up, and then that ought to help that whole lower end. It's better already since we cleaned it and drained it, but hopefully will help to keep that flow going. Any questions on those so far? No. So not to stray too far from this general area, we just went right down the road. Now we're working on the Piper's Meadow drainage. So that's what we've classified it as, but basically south side of Atlantic, west of Jackson. As I said, we cleaned the main line of Hip Brook or Thousand Acre Brook in the past here on the along Baird Road. So now we're looking to clean this portion of Hip Brook that drains, or the tributary to Hip Brook, going from the end of McKenna Trail. So we'll eventually pop out there, go through the back of Piper's Meadow. There was supposed to be kind of a wetland pond back of Piper's Meadow, which is pretty much just all Phragmites. It's just overgrown, so solid you can't even see it. We've walked the backyard through 18 and 15, and you can see it, creeping up into the backyard of those homes. They were happy to hear we were going to come clean that, drainage out. We met with those neighbors, got the releases we needed. We also met, with the neighbor at the corner. The former, DPW director. He was more than happy to let us come through his property. So met with Rod. I think that'll help at the back end of the project. Talked with all the neighbors down the street, let them know what was going on. Got the releases from 3053. I think we still got to get a release from the two neighbors across the street to clean that end, but we haven't gotten up there yet. We also are going through two properties. Highlights it. The Nature Conservancy has two properties in there. We've been speaking with them. They gave us the releases we needed for that, and then as well as the school district property. So 3021 Atlantic Avenue is owned by the Penfield School District. We've talked to them, and they've allowed us to create an access in, since this end is one between two homes, going through a marshy pond at this end. They've allowed us to access through their property. So our DPW crew was it's about 1,400 feet back, had to create an access through the property from the school. So we let the neighbors know that it wasn't new construction, it wasn't a new subdivision, it wasn't a new school building. Said you're going to hear chainsaws, you're going to hear us, clearing a path through there. The school is aware. They're, very helpful to, provide us access to get in there, but to give them a heads up. So haven't heard from anybody else. We have actually talked to the neighbor across the street. They popped out and we're wondering that very thing is what's going on. We know that school property, what's happening. So hopefully the school hasn't gotten any phone calls, but we, told the school we'd let the neighbors know what was going on, what our purpose is. So if you go by, there's just a very skinny little access. You won't even notice it unless you look. We've done that on purpose. One, so it's not a nuisance or, an attractive nuisance for people to go in there. But two, not to disturb the buffer to the neighbors. So they've created an access, going back into the property. They've already cleaned from the mainline channel up to and I think slightly into the Nature Conservancy property. So they've, cleaned that through, opened that up. We had to send our machine off for some service. So we have a temporary pause on this project, but we'll continue up along the backyards of Fiddler's Hollow and Piper's Meadow, opening up that channel, reestablishing, the pond area up here, and then eventually coming out on Atlantic Avenue, our second access, and then cleaning the end of McKenna Trail. So McKenna Trail, we've got a discharge here. That discharges in a small open channel, goes under Atlantic Avenue, and then, flows down through there. So this one is kind of where we are currently. Had to get some service on our machine, so get that in, get it serviced, and we'll jump back on this one in a little bit. We do have one more scheduled for this year. Hopefully, weather permitting, we can still get at it. Wilberts, get me on the right spot. I went too far over. Thank you. So in the back of Welch's property, so here's Route 250, Marchner Road, Plank Road. We also applied for permits to clean the back of Welch's Farm Market. So cleaning the back of Welch's Farm Market. This is the back of the Falvo Funeral Home. So the funeral home is up here, Falvo's on the property in the back. Would then cut through property. The Berry property, Berry has part of this and this here. Drain that through. This is the back. This is a residential home here. Here's Argenie's property, and then clean out to Route 250. So we've got another long drainage way through here. So whether at least we get this started, I don't know whether depending we'll get all the way through this one this year. But this end of it, we've walked through. This end wasn't too bad, and there was some access paths through there to get into that. But to get that one open and clean this year, or at least get that one started, is kind of the last one we have on our agenda this year. I know we mowed and we had some erosion issues at, not Crown Point, next to Crown Point, Knightbridge Circle. We had some erosion coming out from the stream in there. I know you guys have mowed that, and I think have opened that up to see what's going on and do a little bit of, that's not a ditch cleaning, but just more of a little riprap and stabilization on that piece. So I think that's, to my recollection, that the stream cleaning we've done so far this year. We reviewed in February with this group. We had a list of 5 projects we were moving ahead for next year. We've moved ahead with those. Been working with Martin Yonda and BME. Submitted the applications for those, so those are currently in process. So hopefully those will continue forward. And then we've been already talking about, okay, what's on the next year's cycle. So we're going to start generating a list of that. Probably come back to this group, October or November, whenever our next meeting are, and start kind of looking at what's the 2022 cycle. Just so we can kind of stay enough ahead, keep the crews, going. They've been, moving along. We kind of got a late start this year with COVID and a little bit of delay on that, but to keep ahead of them and knowing it takes us, sometimes a year and a half, 2 years to get permits, and or longer, just to keep ahead of that as we've done typically. So I think we'll start to generate our list probably for our October, November meeting, review, what we had last year, and then, we'll highlight what we've got for next year, and then to kind of keep that going. Probably be good, we can share our map. Doug's been updating that. We've got a map on the wall. We're kind of trying to track as we go all the way around the town where we've done, what year we've cleaned it, when we were last in there, coming at it a little more systematic, approach to it, so we can stay on more of a 10 to 15 year cycle, where before we kind of were hit and miss, and we were 30 to 40 years or something before we were in, back, going through the Finger Lakes path last time. So hopefully, we get around, more often than that. As far as mowing, I know we've got some mowing machines down right now, but we've got plans to get in and, mow Commission Ditch. I think this year, 4 Mile Creek, I don't think we've been in that one in a while, so it might be good to get in and knock that one down. I'm sure there's suckers starting to come up already, and get back into some of these spots we haven't gotten into. Hopefully we've got a
The other one that we did too
fairly dry fall.
was Chippingham there, that concrete gutter.
Yes, thank you.
We
Yep.
haven't finished that one yet either, but that's another one.
Yep, thank you for that one. So across from the YMCA, along Route 250, we did get permits to clean this channel that goes up the back of Chippingham, behind the church, behind Hidden Hollow, the Iron Horseman, and then go up towards Sweets Corners Road. They started cleaning up through Chippingham. I believe you stopped right here.
Right there, yeah.
So we're back of the Cortolo property. We have plans to continue and finish that. We had that 4-inch rain we got in a few hours that caused some issues around town and some washouts. So unfortunately, we had to pull out of that project, go address some areas. We had some major washouts and some issues elsewhere in town. But yeah, thank you for the reminder that and Mr. Cortolo called and said, "You're coming back, right?" Oh yeah, we're coming back. We know we had a few issues to address. He's okay, just making sure. But to then clean that piece, that would go up along Wickham Farms and get all the way up to Sweets Corners Road. So that would complete that stretch. So yeah, thank you. Forgot about that one. Anything else on the stream cleaning, mowing?
Well, we just started mowing today that pond off of Whalen by that private drive in Timberline or Timberbrook or wherever it's right there.
Timber Glen Trail?
250.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, right there.
So you're mowing around the Timber Glen Trail pond?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Got some ash trees in there that we're going to be and taken down to starting to come down.
So if we might as well mow that while we're right there and get that done.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think we've done any or gotten into that pond since it was completed, and that's been
I've pulled
5 or 6 years from.
a beach ball out of the pond, and that's the extent of anything that we've done there.
Okay. Well, with 195, are we at now? 195
195, 196.
ponds around town. It's not that we try to neglect them or try to, it's just, again, same as creeks and streams. Try to prioritize them each year. We go out and do inspections every 3 years. So this was, one of the years we did our cycle, go around, inspect them, check them, say rank them, but, which are the worst of the worst and which ones need some TLC, and then, prioritize to get out there, because we can't get out to every pond every year to maintain it, clean it, but, again, we can keep on a cycle and get around and clean them the best we can, then at least to keep it more routine. So the next item on the agenda is the Glenbrook Pond culvert replacement. This one is near and dear to some on our committee. Let me get to the right neighborhood. So as we go around town and try to check on our infrastructure, this is one spot off Woodfield Drive. We're all familiar with with Glenbrook Pond. As we were looking at, or as Harold had shared with the committee, we saw some erosion along the slope after one storm. Saw that we had some initial debris that got sucked into, I think there was some patio furniture or something was up against it, pulled that out, and then as part of that realized the side of the pipe was, starting to deteriorate. So it's a corrugated metal pipe. It's been in a number of years, starting to see some deterioration of that. So we waited and went in and scoped it and found that not only was the end section a little bit rotted, we're starting to see some other spots and don't want it to get so bad that, it causes an issue with the road. So we've got that slated to start as soon as next week. Mike went through and did the design specs for that one, got it out to bid. We've got Ironwood as the contractor for that. We will be doing a road closure for that. So as part of that, I shared with Jeff David today about that. I don't know if you've got a sketch or we can show where that's severed, and then I don't know if you've had
Yeah,
conversations with the school district about that, or?
I have not yet. I've been kind of waiting to figure out exactly when Ironwood's going to be working in the area, to give them a better time frame.
Okay. Yeah, once we have dates, obviously we can get Jeff involved, let emergency services know that obviously you've still got access to the neighborhood, but, for the neighbors to the east, they'll have to use Sampson Drive and out. Neighbors to the west, we'll have to use Woodfield Drive and access that way, so.
Letters were sent out to every resident that has a Woodfield Drive address.
Okay. And what's the anticipated timeframe, 2 to 3 weeks?
Likely,
Okay.
prior to October 31st, and they want to give themselves as much time as possible.
Then get back in, and so we did look at it as far as the type of pipe to replace it. Unfortunately, it is an elliptical pipe, so it's a squashed pipe. It's not a full round pipe, which makes it more difficult to replace with plastic, so we couldn't do plastic. So we are going back with a corrugated metal pipe. Otherwise, we looked at using concrete as well. We do concrete, now the OD or the outside diameter gets bigger. We start bumping into existing utilities, water lines, and other stuff. So we are trying to replace in kind. Not saying, we won't have any conflicts, but if it's the same elliptical pipe, the same squash pipe to it, hopefully it's an easier removal and replacement with the same style pipe and the same size and everything else. So it shouldn't be any change to size of pipe. It's matching in kind. We are looking at replacing, so this will be the piece under the road, and then out to the end section, we are going to leave the outlet control structure that's there now. That may need to be replaced at some point in the future. We are then looking to slip line the remainder of the pipe between the two properties next year. So there's a material you can go and slip line it. It's in a lawn area, so you're not looking at, carrying loads of trucks and school buses and fully loaded, salt trucks and everything else. So, that's be more than sufficient for, a yard replacement. The other piece under the road looks to be in worse condition at the northern end and is in need of replacement. So, that's a good question.
Wondering how long it lasts.
What year was your house built?
Mine, 98.
1980?
And I was one of the last lots to go in.
98.
Yeah, but I was one of the last lots to go in, so the neighborhood was built
So,
out before then.
Into the 90s?
It's probably the 80s,
Okay.
because there were a couple of Homeoramas back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we're into the 80s and we're probably picking up some, additional salt because it's, picks up Scribner Road and picks up some other areas. But so, it lasts a good long while. Plastic would have been our first choice to go back with, an HDPE or something. But in order to keep the same size, we ran different models, or Mike ran different models on flow capacity and how much you could run through it and make sure we're, keeping in compliance with, make sure the pond functions as it does today. And, after running the different models, we looked at a concrete box. Can we make it square instead of round? And, you end up bumping into all the other stuff around it, the utilities around it. You'd have to modify the structure on the south side. So we can't say corrugated metal was our first choice, but,
And the north. Change the control structure as well.
Yeah, that changed the control structure. So, with all the other modifications issues and everything else that was there, it made more sense just to replace in kind with what's there. So from the 80s to now, we've got 40 years out of the pipe that was there, and
And I won't care. And I won't care.
Harold will be gone, and I think the rest of us will be gone 40 years from now. But we do look at life cycle. We do look at, what's the best cost value, what makes the most sense. If we're replacing it, we don't want it to be it's not a cheap project, so we want to make sure, it makes sense and lasts as long as possible. But just knowing that was an elliptical pipe, and it's an elliptical pipe for a reason. Maybe some people on Woodfield Drive would like speed humps, but if we went with a bigger pipe, it would be into the base of the road, and we'd have a hump in the middle of it. So we looked at that as we couldn't go any taller. We'd end up with, the pipe into the road base, and then create a bigger issue for us. So, but I think we're on track for that. You said pre-construction meeting.
Waiting to hear back from the contractor to confirm exactly when. They were looking to set that up for sometime this week, with the idea that they'd be starting as early as next week.
Okay. Anything else on the Glenbrook pipe end? Talking about our 2021 projects, we had, I don't think we have them highlighted on here, but we had 5 projects. One of them, was off of County Line Road. So as we go east, oops, I'm too far north, excuse me. So as we go east, you got County Line Road here running off the side, Haley Road, Plank Road. We've got 2 different locations that run through Penfield. So we've got a kind of a southern section of this, the County Line Road piece. We've got the northern section. After walking through this, it's pretty choked off. So those are 2 of the spots we've got on for next year's cleaning is scheduled, and moving ahead on those. In the Hermance area, we're calling this kind of the Black Forest, which is the street here, is cleaning north of Hermance Drive, back of the Wilberts property through would be the Black Forest, and then heading over, and I think we cleaned this piece going up to Stablegate a few years ago, so we'll find a common sense spot to stop that, but looking to clean this piece, and it's gotten pretty overgrown through there as well. To ask me what the 3 other ones are now.
Whalen Road by Dolomite was
Yep.
the Dolomite through Shadow Pines.
Yep. So the south end of the Dolomite property, where they pump out their pond, comes out into this corner of this property right here, and that area has become quite overgrown. So we're looking to clean from 5 Mile along Wayland Road, and then in through our property on the south end, or would be the back 9 of the Shadow Pines property. I know with the end of Sawmill Drive being done, they had the laying of the new cable line down through there. This is in Ed's neighborhood. Mike and I were able to walk down there. We met with the neighbors off of Panorama Trail. It's the mountain, it's not Mountain Road, but the townhouses down there, they had some concerns with that heavy rain. There's some material that's a big wad of trees and debris that's up here, and I think, Ed, do you know if RG&E's pulled out their road they built back in there yet?
I haven't been down there to look at the road, but they got everything else all strung behind my house. So
Okay.
I assume I saw a lot of trucks come up where they were taking the plank road up, so I imagine the road may be gone.
Okay, we were down
I can look
there.
at it and I'll let you know.
Okay, we were down there like a month ago. I mean, even if they pulled up the planks, it might be a spot we could track down there. There's a wad of trees, or some trees that have collected down in the stream, that I think we could reach right from the side off of that back end. But Mike and I walked it probably a month ago now, walked down in there, and there's a kind of a spot a tree came down, and it's just starting to collect the debris and becoming, just a clump down there. But yeah, Ed, you can check that out and let us know if that's still in there, or at least we can, hopefully access that piece to get down into that stream.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I'll check it out and call you or send you email let you know.
Okay, much appreciated.
So sorry to send you around the town, but Harris Road, north of Kennedy Road was another one,
Yep,
as they pop in my brain.
that's good. So Harris, Marchner, Allen, Kennedy.
This one goes behind Allen Road, right?
Yep,
Kind of heads
so
north and Jocelyn behind.
it kind of
east
cuts
Allen.
across in here, so the end of, we've put in permits to clean, here's Plank Road, Harris Road in the middle of the screen. It kind of runs backyards, turns, runs in front of this house here, runs up, and then it kind of comes along the road end, and then comes across a couple of these frontage lots in here. So we've submitted the permits to clean this portion into, that'd be on the 2021 cleaning list. And I'm trying to think which the last one we had.
We had
We can share it with the group, so we'll get back to you guys on what the fifth one was that we put in for this year. We had a whole bunch of them and kind of in queue and in thought process, but I say on our October meeting we can we'll itemize out which ones were this year's, and then the couple we're thinking about for next year. So then we can look at those and see what you think, and we'll schedule some walks for those as well to get out and walk those and take a look at areas either we've had requests or areas that we've had some issues. Thanks to the DPW, they had Rich Gross last year was happy to go out and walk a lot of the streams, and he kind of did a breakdown of what he saw, so that was helpful for this year's piece, and we may have come up with some more if he's looking to take a walk. He was helpful last year to do our analysis for us, and I'm sure if he's available would help to do again. So that's the items we had in our project updates. That brings us to public participation. Dave, I don't know if we have any callers on the line or anybody looking to get in.
No, sir.
Okay.
Oh, dude.
Well, we have a caller on the, Simon, you're a member of the committee. I'm talking outside the committee. So.
I'm on the throughway, and the car in front of me went right into a tractor trailer, so.
Oh, I thought your whoa dude I was discounting you as a caller on the phone, but that was perfect timing, not for the driver, but
For the driver.
for you on the phone it was, so.
Mark, I had a question. I was on mute.
Sure.
How much land does the school district own?
That's a good question. I know they have, obviously, the existing properties where they've got the schools. They have that piece on Atlantic that I highlighted earlier, and then I know they own.
Yeah, that's the one I was curious about.
Yep, I can pull it up right now.
Do they just happen to have that land that they purchased randomly, or?
I think they had plans for something to go there in the future. They don't have any plans for it right now, but it's almost 39 acres. So it's at 3021,
Oh, wow.
3021 Atlantic Avenue. The issue with it, there is a fair amount of wetlands in the back. So I think they looked at it a couple years ago. I'm popping up on the screen, you can't see it right now, but the number of state wetlands in the buffer out of the, what I said, 39 acres, at least half or more is not usable. So out of 39 acres, you're down to maybe 15 or 18. So for anything sizable, it doesn't really make sense. So they still own the property. They've obviously worked well with us and allowed us back in to clean the stream and to handle the drainage, but they have no current plans for it. I know they do own another piece out on
Gloria
Atlantic
Drive.
Avenue near
Gloria.
Gloria Drive. I think they've purchased that, whether that's a school 25, 50, 100 years from now, but I think they're trying to do their due diligence just to, as the town continues to grow and expand, the town's going to continue to grow to the east, that, they'd have land available and, buy it ahead of time. So they do have a couple of properties. That answer your question, Mike?
Hey, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
So without any other public participation, communications from the Town Stormwater Coalition, the state, we are still awaiting an update to the DEC stormwater permit. They've been telling us that for a year, 2 years now that it's coming out. I don't think anybody, at least on our end, is disappointed about it. I'm sure that's more regulations and more stuff we've got to do. We've shared with this group, about the number of catch basin cleanings and stuff that was in some of the original proposals. Have not seen the draft, but I know the draft is out there. It's, coming at some point in the future, but haven't seen it quite yet. So we're okay with that. We're dealing with the regulations we've got right now and keeping up with, what we've got to do to keep in compliance, inspecting our ponds, doing our outfall inspections, trying to keep up with stream cleanings. We have to do an annual report of, how many people we've talked to about it, how many meetings, the watershed meetings, is part of that. We've got, community input. So we itemize how many miles of road have we swept, parking lots, catch basins flushed. So there's an annual report we provide. It's on our website if anybody's interested. But that breaks down, what we've done throughout the year, and that's combined with, what the rest of the members, there's 29 members of the Stormwater Coalition, what the other members have done, as well as what the town of Penfield's done. I'm sure people may or may not have seen, we've got the H2O Hero, logos up right now, and a lot of the stuff is focused on creeks this year. So trying to get it more local. Some of the stuff in the past is don't pollute your waterway. Some people either may not relate to waterway or what that is. I don't know if anybody's traveled down either Whalen Road or Plank Road. We've worked with the county on their roads to put up signs. So as you go down, there's blue signs hanging on some of the utility poles that says Mill Creek, Hip Brook, Tufa Glen. So to try to, whether subconsciously, it's not just a roadside ditch, it's not just, a farm ditch. As you give a name to it and, name it as the waterways, we haven't put them on, any state roads as yet. That's a little more difficult, but working with the Stormwater Coalition, along with the county, they've been able to, one, they create the signs for us, and two, put them on, those crossings. So it's been nice to see as you drive by or keep a lookout for them. But I know on Plank Road and Whalen Road, we've got some, I think they had one or two other spots they were looking for, but just it's kind of a blue rectangular sign. It says Mill Creek, Tufa Glen going down the road, but at least to bring some awareness to residents that, these are our drainage ways, our waterways within the town. Hopefully if it has a name to it, it's a little more important. And then some of the signage, this year they've rolled out some Spanish signs and tried to locate those around town to be more multicultural, bilingual, to put that out there. We've had billboards, Facebook stuff, again, just to kind of remind people that, dumping it into a catch basin doesn't go to a sewer treatment plant somewhere. It goes into the catch basin, probably goes 50 feet down the road and pops out in the stream that your kid was splashing in earlier or playing in. And, just to bring awareness, I think a lot of people think that, dumping oil of changing their car or something goes down and gets treated somewhere and then, gets all cleaned up, or in reality it's ends up in your backyard or just down the street. So that's some of the new stuff, with the County Stormwater Coalition is the signage that we put out there for that. Talked about the state permit that's still on hold. We'll see that shortly. Anything else from the group? Comments, concerns, anything new?
I have one comment.
Sure. Pull your microphone close.
We cleaned it all out. It's working great.
Put your mic.
You gotta pull your microphone up or we're not gonna hear you.
Quite
For the
the turn.
millions of viewers at home.
So they cleaned the commission ditch out great. When we got that crazy rain, I was shocked at how fast, my whole place went underwater by a foot and it was gone in an hour. So and I walked the whole commission ditch all the way down through my property and it really looks good.
Good.
So it's
Good.
working well.
Well, that's what it's there for. I mean, we can't dig the.
Water's been coming up out of the road at 441 and they found out water line's been leaking, the main line going down the road.
Okay.
It's been leaking for about 7 years, they think.
They've got a wet, squishy spot, and now they've figured out why and what's going
Yeah.
on. Okay.
So I was wondering if we should update them on the status of the Allen Creek, since we just did.
Good point. Yeah, that's one of the projects we've been working on for a while. Let me shut the wetlands off. So Allen Creek, we walked that
2 years ago?
2 years ago? Yeah, it was, obviously we canceled our June meeting this year, so it was the June before we walked that portion of it. So let's go to the west side of town. Down. Thank you. So the Shirewood, Burrow Hills neighborhood, we've been working for a number of years. This is the borderline with the town of Brighton, right behind Paychex. We've seen a lot of erosion on this Allen Creek corridor, which then goes through the Allen Creek townhomes and then eventually connects into Arundequoit Creek over by the Nalgene Thermo Fisher property. So we've seen some erosion in there. We've been working a long time with Barton LaJudas as our consultant to come up with a design and a plan for that. They've worked along, they did their submission to the U.S. Army Corps and the New York State DEC. We got some initial feedback from them. We walked it with the DEC. The DEC thought it was a good project. They were happy with it. Not saying we've got our final permits, but they seemed and thought it was a worthwhile project, seeing the amount of erosion down there. We're trying to use some natural measures, whether, J-hooks, root wads, mud sills, different elements to, than just putting concrete and hardening it, using some natural elements to try to, slow the water down and keep it away from the bank. But we've seen a lot of scouring in that area that, is undercutting some of the side slopes, and we saw the big side slope that, came down behind the mobile home park. So in working to try to prevent that and some of the yard loss, as I kind of zoom in here, you can see the main line of the channel, and then it continues to scour into some of these backyards of Burrows Hills that each year they're losing feet as it's, coming through there and, keeps eroding their yard away. So the most recent part was a request from the Army Corps for an archaeological evaluation. So knowing that this area, was possible Native American residents hundreds, thousands of years ago, there may be some archaeological elements to that. So we've had Morton Archaeological looking at that for us, walked it with them. They did some analysis of it, but knowing that the vast majority of the work is in the stream channel or directly adjacent to the shore, even some temporary material storage, we just got a report back, and they just sent it into SHPO today, actually, that, and I'm just trying to turn on the County Interceptor sewer, sent that back to them today that basically said that they don't see any archaeological impact to the project we're looking at, as well as I've kind of highlighted in blue on this, purple on the screen, what the County Interceptor is. So that's an 8-foot diameter pipe running through that area. So obviously installing that, would have disturbed that soil at some point in the past as well, along with the stream corridor. So just as of this afternoon, they submitted that back to SHPO. Hopefully SHPO will be satisfied with their archaeological investigation of that report, which then hopefully will continue to move it ahead with U.S. Army Corps and DEC and move into our permitting. We then need to schedule some meetings with those neighbors that would be impacted, access through their property in the backyard of where and how do we get in and out of there. So hope to do those this fall, and then ultimately if things work out, I think we have a June 15th to October 15th window between salmon runs, long-eared bats, what other trout stream, other stuff, in the stream or adjacent to it for tree removal. If need be, we've kind of got a window for that. So we'd be looking at hopefully shortly after the first of the year to put it out to bid, get a contractor on board, and then, have them scheduled and ready to go and staged so that, June 15th hits, you'd be ready to go and get started. So that's kind of the latest on that. But thank you, Mike, that you say just got that archaeological report submitted back to SHPO just this afternoon. So hopefully that'll continue to move ahead. If nobody else has any other new business, the only other thing Linda shared with the group was the potential schedule. That's the time of year we kind of look at what our calendar is for next year. She proposed 2 of them. Given the current state we're in with COVID right now, hopefully Tuesdays I think is kind of going to be our go-to for now. We've traditionally been on Mondays, but given, and thank you to PCTV downstairs for running us today, to have a setup like this, either to zoom in, record it, handle our meetings, to keep them on not being here every single night of the week. Tuesdays work better for them. So if I think at this point, we're kind of proposing if it works at 4 o'clock, whether you can be here or Zoom as Ed is or on the phone as Mike is, carrying forward, we're kind of proposing, we sketched out what Mondays could be. If this is over and we're back to normal life, then we can possibly switch back to Mondays. But I think for now, we may have to stick with Tuesdays through the rest of this year, and we're already kind of slating out next year to look that we may continue to be on Tuesdays. I think 4 o'clock, if that works for everybody. Obviously not every meeting for every person, but if we can do 4 o'clock and either you can call in, Zoom in, I think that'll work best for us, PCTV, our crews here, and as well as staff. So if that works with this group.
That works.
I got 2 heads here. Ed, does that work for you?
Yeah, 4 o'clock on Tuesday's fine with me.
Okay. Mike, you still with us?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. And then the only one we would confirm with is Mike Guyan. He couldn't be here today. And then I know Debbie is our town board liaison. Obviously, she works a full-time job as well, so she had some issues being here today, but she may be here in the future. And then obviously we're welcoming our town supervisor to be with us as well today. So thank you to him for joining us. But if that works for the group, I think we'll move ahead with the Tuesday meeting schedule, 4 o'clock. So we'll count this as our vote on that. We'll send that to PCTV and the website to post that in through next year. And then our next meeting is October 6th. We'll hold that date as we have updates. By that point, I think we'll be through Piper's. We're moving along a little bit on some of the other ones. Maybe Chippingham, get that one completed, and then have some updates on our mowing status. And I think we'll also be looking at looking into 2022. What might our potential stream locations for that be, and share that with the group as well.
Mark?
Mark, we
Yes,
also
sir.
did the muckweed treatment in the ponds.
Okay.
Okay, that's been done.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, our typical locations for the muckaway was put in.
Yeah.
I know we did earlier in the season this year, worked out a little bit better. We had ATIP come in and they did their normal treatments mid-June, July.
Yeah, it was early June.
It was a little earlier. It worked out better. I know this group, Mike suggested coming into this group, I think,
At the end of the year.
October, November, talking about whether we want to keep that cycle going. I think that worked out better because then we could get our permits in sooner in the year, and I could sit down with the town board. So I think I sat down with the town board
February.
late January, early February. The board was good with it, which then gave ATIP the lead and then got them, going earlier in the season to get the permits. We didn't have the lakeshore high water levels, which helped, but that was helpful to get that out earlier, and I think that got us better on track. That they're out there right when you get the lily pads and everything else. They got to wait for those, but at least the permits are in place, and we're not waiting until July, August,
worked out good.
or later. So, sorry, Dave, was that you?
Mark,
Yes.
are you gonna leave
was that-
October 6th on a Monday, or you're gonna switch to the 7th on a Tuesday?
7th on a Tuesday. Thank you for noticing. So yes, we'll switch that. We'll make sure our website is up to date. But yeah, it'll be the Tuesday.
Tuesday at 4, I assume.
Yep. And then I know you had highlighted before our potential conflict on election day, but this building is not used for elections. So depending on what the group's thoughts were, I believe elections are being held at the community center in the Dolomite Lodge. Okay, that was our initial report, but make sure we're
we should just double check that, only because we've lost a number of bowling sites, so firehouse, senior centers, and I think we might be here for.
Yeah,
Early voting, don't my lodge, but I think we're going to be here.
yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
We'll check on that then for November, but, so at this point, October 7th will be our next meeting. We'll check on the November date for potential conflict with,
Tuesday, October 6th.
it is Tuesday, October 6th?
Yeah, so you just said there.
Okay. So Ed, you had your date wrong, it's Tuesday, October 6th. We just need to change the Monday. We had the date right, just the... Okay. Thanks, Al. With that, that's the agenda that I had, so unless the group's got anything else, we'll close out the watershed meeting for September 15th. Thanks for everybody that's coming. Thanks for those that are on Zoom. Thank you to those that are driving safely on the thruway and avoid the tractor trailers, Mike. And thank you to everybody for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep. Have a good night.
Good night.